Okay, let's see. Here we go. Here we are, everybody. Welcome, everyone. Hi, it's Fred Cochran from San Joaquin County Office of Education. And it's that time of, I don't want to say it that way. It is the third Wednesday of the month at 4:30. And this is our UDL chat time. So this is the San Joaquin County Office of Education UDL network. And we're trying something new today. We are inviting those of you who registered or anyone who has the link to join us in Zoom. And we're also live streaming into Facebook. So if you have one preference or the other, I would recommend joining us on Zoom. So we'll see how all of that goes. And whatever happens, we will record this session onto our Padlet, as well as in the Facebook feed that we have. So I want to welcome you today. I'm honored to have my good friend, Jennifer Betker from Open Access, Placer SELPA, our guest speaker today. I just had to twist her arm just a little bit, but I say, hey, are you busy at 4:30? Because I want to share your updated website. So I'm going to turn give you sharing.
Yes,
make you a co-host. And the purpose of our session is today, as I mentioned, is to share some resources. And every month I share something new. I add information to our feed in Facebook. And today I did add Open Access website so that you can easily get to it on our Facebook group. And we'll also drop the link in our chat. So welcome. I'm going to turn it over to Jess. We're only with you, Jen, sorry, we're only with you for about a half an hour. So if you have questions, please be sure to ask or interrupt us, because it's a very flexible environment, very open, and we want to be sure you're getting what you need. So I will mute myself and turn this over to Jennifer.
Well, I want to thank Fred for inviting me to do this. I always love to talk about UDL. That is my jam. I kind of nerd out over it. So I appreciate the call. And I am super excited to talk to you today about our Open Access 2.0 website. And so just a little bit of background. Open Access is a project that is funded by the California Department of Education and the California Collaborative for Educational Excellence, so CDE and CCEE. And what we do, we are grant funded, and so this is our 5th and final year. We're sunsetting at the end of this year. But what we do is we go and support school districts with the implementation of UDL or assistive technology or augmentative alternative communication. And so it's really important that we are providing access for all of our students. And that's why Open Access is learning and participation for all. We really want to provide more inclusive environments for all of our students. And so it's been super exciting to work on this and kind of develop some things. So I'm just going to kind of show you a little bit around the website, not dive too deep into the project itself, but more focus on the UDL tab. But just so you can see up at the top, if you want to learn more about our network, our capacity building projects, all that information is up there. If you want to dive a little bit, if you're interested in assistive technology, we've got that tab. If you are a speech person and you want to provide, some tools there, you can look at the AAC tab. But we're going to focus on the Universal Design for Learning tab. So we kind of tiered our approach into this. So the What is UDL provides information if you're not familiar with what it is and you're like, what is even UDL? It's another acronym that education likes to throw at us. So Universal Design for Learning is what UDL is. And so there's a lot of information on just what it is, why it's so important to do it. We've provided some options for you to learn more about it. We've got the written word, we've got some videos that support, and then we kind of dive into the guidelines and what are the guidelines and what are they there and how do they support us. And so all that information is on there. It gives you a really nice background. And then from this page, you can click on the research, or you could go up to the top and do that too. So you can hit it from either direction. CAST is the founders of UDL. They did all the brain research that is behind Universal Design for Learning. And so we talk a little bit there about who CAST is and what these crazy things called guidelines are, because they're goofta. You look at them and you're like, oh, what am I doing? Right. And so we've kind of broken down how to read the guidelines. And then we've also provided a link to interactive ones. So if we click on that link, we can go into engagement, and it's going to talk all about the engagement principle, and you can learn and interact with diving deeper into the guidelines if you want to. If you're already familiar and you're like, I really want to learn more about recruiting interest, you can take that right there and dive into it. Okay, so we provided that. And then, and again, if you have questions, stop me. And then from there, we have, for school districts, we have provided, and for county offices of education also, we have provided our version of a UDL implementation roadmap. And what we did was we've broken it down into these phases. And so if you want to learn about how do we start this process, you can click on that link and it kind of just gives you a quick summary of when we start in that planning phase, here's the things that we're going to do. And so that's really nice too for school districts that are kind of going, I don't know where to start. You know, it's like we know UDL, we have our basic foundation, we understand it, but how do we actually implement it? And that's been a lot of the missing piece is we go to trainings and they give us information about UDL, but that how we implement it is kind of missing. And so this document really leads us into what can we do to truly implement. And so each cycle is broken down. You can read a little bit more. And then if you actually want the whole document with all the different links to the different resources that we have, you can download and have the entire document. And that document includes like capacity assessments. It includes an understanding of the way that we developed the training that we did. It has links to protocols that we put into place that really help understand UDL and see what it looks like, because that's the other missing piece is everybody wants to know, what does this look like? How would it look in my class? And so we've provided some protocols and steps in how to do that. And we've also developed a template for an implementation plan. So if you've really dived in and you've decided we really want to do this, there is a template kind of to follow that supports understanding, looking at your data and developing a problem of practice and setting some goals for implementation. And all of that is found in this roadmap. And so that's been a work of love for us too, is to really make sure that we are providing the tools that people will need for implementation. So that's under the roadmap. And then we have research and resources, because we also know that we have, the different learning styles. Like you have the professors that want to know why we're doing these things. And why UDL, where does it come from? How was it developed? Things like that. And so these are all different resources that you can read to understand the difference, like the brain science behind it, foundational research behind it, why learning styles are kind of a thing of the past because everybody's variable and everybody has multiple ways that they learn in multiple parts of their brains that need to be activated. And so there's a ton of research, and we continue to add as we find more and more information, we continue to add to this. And so you can kind of see where all the research and have quick and easy information. And so that's been nice too. I'm gonna skip the resource flip kit for a second, and then I'm gonna go to the open access UDL resources. And so what we have also done is, again, had actionable items that people can actually look at and use to better implement UDL. And so what we've done is we have created UDL and instruction modules. And so we know with UDL design, we look at goals, methods, materials, and assessments. And so these modules dive deep into each one of those areas. We also have modules on building expert learners. We know that that is the ultimate goal of UDL, is to develop learners who are purposeful and motivated, resourceful and knowledgeable, strategic and goal-directed. And so each one of those three are also in 2 modules. One of the protocols that I previously mentioned is instructional rounds. And so if you're not familiar with that, we've developed a video about here's what instructional rounds are. We've given you templates and examples of how to set up instructional rounds and kind of what you need to do in order to develop that. Another one is lesson study protocol. Again, another protocol where we look at the design of the lesson and we really look at where can we UDLize it, right? Where are those +1 things we can add to a lesson to just make it more accessible for our students. And so that information is there. And then we have classroom resources, and those are developed by the UDL people here, me. And what it does too is just really daily practices that we can utilize in order to, provide students that learning environment that is really going to help them succeed. So you can search down by the drop-down menu. So I'm going to go into the classroom resources. And so here you can see we have developed an early childhood crosswalk. And so if you're part of the ECE world, there is kind of a crosswalk where do the concepts of ECE align to UDL? And that was created with the open access and Shasta County and San Joaquin County. So the 3 of us worked together in developing that. Another idea is these UDL look-fors gives you some really good ideas on assessment and then some probing questions. Why did you use that assessment? How did it work for students? And really getting us to think about, okay, I planned this, didn't go quite like I thought it was going to. So what are some things some +1s that we could add into our next round of assessments? And then we have these blended stations. Station work in the past has been my little bluebirds are all going to be at this station and my little yellow birds are at this station. And it really was targeted based on ability. And so we don't want that anymore. We really want these blended stations. But how can we do that when we have a wide variety of students with, so much variability? And so these blended stations really help kind of guide and get us to think about what could we provide in each station that will help students be successful so that we don't have to, just keep tracking them into certain areas. They can actually kind of move through stations at their own pace. And we provide them maybe some scaffolds and some tools that will support them in getting through that lesson.
Hey, Jen, this is so great. I was wondering if any of Deanie's students had any questions so far. One thing I noticed that it's so easy to navigate. It's very user-friendly. It's not cluttered. It's very exciting because yeah. So what about that, Deanie? Do you have any questions or anything that we could address right now?
Anyone? No, they're engaged though.
They're engaged. Okay. Their homework is to look at some of the resources, right?
We're gonna explore.
Do
You're
they,
gonna,
I was gonna say, do they have laptops with them, Deanie?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Do they have laptops with them?
Yes, I put it on the board so that they can open and explore.
Perfect. Perfect. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, and then the last resource is this UDL troubleshooting approach. And this is when we have a solid background about UDL, but what it does is, I'm going to click on it and download it here really quick, is it gets us to name the problem, right? And so a lot of times when we're and I'm guilty of this in my past, we name the problem as the student can't sit still, right? We want to start reframing that problem as not in the student, but in the learning environment. So if they can't sit still and they're fidgeting all the time, that means breaks haven't been built in, right? So nobody can sit and listen for more than 10 minutes, in all honesty. We know that. And so have I done a good job kind of breaking up my lesson to allow for those breaks? And then you look at it as like, okay, if I haven't built in breaks, what principle does that fall under? So this is where we get to kind of go, okay, breaks. Breaks could be an engagement issue. They can't focus and be engaged if they have to sit in a row all the time, right? And then it asks you to, what do we already do that supports students that can't sit still? And we write down everything that we do. And then we start and do maybe a little bit of what else could we do? What's our +1? Okay. And then we try it. And then we ask for that feedback, because feedback from the students is super important, right? Because it helps us kind of refine our practices, and it gives them a voice in what is happening in the classroom. And so if we added a +1, then it could be, we'll have students that'll say, that was great, thank you for the break. You'll have some kids that say, oh, could we go a little bit longer before the break? Or some that'll say shorter. And so then you can kind of mix it up to meet all of their needs. And so that's that troubleshooting piece. And then as we go deeper, not only do we match engagement, representation, and action and expression, then we start matching it to a guideline. So again, if they can't sit still, we know it's engagement. Ooh, I think it's sustaining effort and persistence. So now I've done it with that. Again, what strategies can I use? What new ones can I add? How did it go? So each phase kind of gets broken down. And so that's been really nice as teams have gone out and say, you know what, we're still at phase 1. We're just trying to figure out if it's engagement, representation, and action and expression. And they're really having robust conversations through that. And so that's been a really nice document too. And so, like I said, there's a ton for the expert learning modules. I'm just going to show you a little bit. So we've created these documents, and it just kind of gives you a little bit of background here. You can click there to read a little bit more about the information, and then kind of what questions do you have based on that topic. And then at the top of the second page is a video. So it's a recorded that kind of takes you through how do we develop purposeful and motivated learners. And then we've given space to take notes, to answer some questions, to really interact with the video. And then, of course, we have a progression. We created a progression. So if you really want to start developing purposeful and motivated, maybe you're in this area, but this is where you want to get to. So it's giving you kind of a rubric of where you are at and where you want to get to, which is kind of nice, because it's like, I think I'm doing it. And then we look at the progression, it's like, oh, nope, I did not do that like I thought I was doing. And so that's been nice. And then as people want to learn more, this is like, maybe that's their jam, this particular expert learning, we've given some additional information for people. And so that's how those modules are created. So there's 3 for expert learning and there's 4 for lesson design. And those have been really nice too. And if you're coaching, you know, that gives you the ability too to say, hey, we're going to do this together and let's talk about this as a team. And so it's a good team building activity also.
Yeah. Amazing. It's so easy to follow. That's what I love.
And so the last thing I'm going to do is the resource flip kits. And so this is really exciting for people. And so what you can do is you're like, I don't know, I need some help with representation. I'm struggling right there. So you can click on representation and then you can say, do I want a strategy, a teaching strategy, or do I maybe need a digital tool that will help me? If you pick a digital tool, all these different things that support representation, as you can see, there's a ton of them. It just keeps going and going and going, right? That's there for you. But if you say, you know what, I don't want a digital tool, I need some teaching strategies, then what happens is you can select the guidelines. So let's say I really want help with supporting comprehension. So I'm going to go on that. And then here are teaching strategies. Like, here's how we fix the fuzziness. Here's thinking beyond the text, helping with comprehension, interactive read alouds. And so those provide strategies, information on what is a think aloud. I've never heard of that. And so you can go in and you can learn more and then incorporate that into your lessons.
Wow.
Boom. I know
Amazing.
it's a little overwhelming. There's a lot there. And so you can spend hours just diving into the resource flip kit.
Right. But I think that is what teachers want. They want to be able to see what is a strategy. Maybe I'm living in the digital world and I'm using a lot of assistive technologies that or different technologies that are ways that you can have students optimize how they access and can share what they know or demonstrate what they know. And this is like an ingenious tool. I just I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you. It took a lot, and to really, I think what we heard from the field too is teachers are like, okay, but how do I support self-regulation under engagement? And so we really were purposeful in saying, if you select a teaching strategy, you can select a checkpoint and really dive into that with some really important strategies.
I guess maybe one question I might have is, what I hear a lot out in the field when we're coaching is people want to see the real thing. They want to see a video example of it. And I know that those examples are sometimes older examples.
Right.
They're not current. And I know that CAST is working on providing more videos through the Cecil grant, which is the California Coalition for Inclusive Literacy, that our county and Placer County is partnering in with 3 other counties in the state. So we get that question quite a bit. Do you get that question quite a bit too?
Yeah, I do. And there are some videos attached to some of these strategies that kind of show how to use them. But what I have found is I've just gone through and found different videos, whether it be on Teaching Channel or something else. And then I found ones where I can see UDL really being used in the lesson. And so I tend to use those in my sessions too. But yeah, the biggest question is always like, what does this look like?
Right.
But I always tell them teachers are as variable as the students. So the way that I teach is going to be different than the way that Fred teaches, and recruiting interest in my class is going to look different than recruiting interest in Fred's class. So it's
True.
really just trying
Right.
and seeing what works for you and for your students.
Right. That reminds me of one time I heard, that UDL is not a prescription. There's no prescription for UDL. So, and yeah, the variability is a big factor here. We all have different situations that kind of tell us what direction we have to go. And a lot of it comes around mindset, knowing that we need to offer our kids multiple ways of achieving a rigorous goal, meaningful, rigorous, still rigorous goals, but meaningful options to get to that goal. So it's not watering down anything, it's really offering different options. And just think what that can do to your classroom engagement, right? It's optimizing that choice and autonomy and helping kids, fostering that feeling of choosing something, and even choosing something that isn't the right choice, and then making that determination that that wasn't the right choice for me, right? So important to give students, there's not a right or wrong way.
No.
It's just really thinking about the, how you discuss it together with your, and talk to your students.
I mean, after 20 plus years of teaching, I would go into my class and say, this is going to work, this is going to be fantastic, and it would fall flat on first period, but it worked for 8th period. Or I would say, I don't know if this is going to work, I think this is going to suck, but okay, I'm going to try it. And then lo and behold, the kids are like, this was fantastic, thank you for doing this and this and this and this. So yeah, there's no right or wrong, and really failing in front of them, that's just part of it too, right? And they're gonna see us fail, and they're gonna go, it's okay to do that too.
Right. I think one other thing you mentioned, which I think is really important, is feedback, and getting the feedback from the students, not just one way. You're doing a great job. Okay, maybe you're doing a great job. Be specific about what you're doing that's so great, but also ask them what's working for you. Has anything stopped your learning today? What would you have done differently, or what could I have done differently to help you have the best learning possible? So those are really great things to keep in mind. What do you think, Deanie?
Well, off of what Jennifer was saying, there's not an end game. Sometimes we're talking to people and they're like, oh yeah, I learned UDL. It's like, I learned it this one time and I have applied it and then I'm done, kind of a thing, right? It's like a process that you're always going to be doing, whether you're teaching your first year or 20 years in. You can always kind of reevaluate and switch it up and apply things differently. There's not an end.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and that's learning in general, right? We're never experts in a specific thing. Like, I've been doing UDL for how many years now, and every time I go and I hear someone else's perspective about, I was like, I never thought of that. Oh my gosh, that's really cool. So yeah, that is so true.
That's great. Well, Jen, this has been great. I was wondering if I could share my screen now. I just wanted to just do a few closing. Did you finish?
Yeah, I'm done.
Oh, good. Well, that was wonderful. Don't leave yet. I am going to try to pull up some slides real quick, just some reminders. And let's see if I can do this. Okay. The good news is that I did, well, I'm not doing too good yet. The good news is that I did see we are live streaming into Facebook. Are you able to see this slide?
Yep.
Yeah, you are. 2 ways to join?
Yep.
Oh, I did something right. Good. Okay. All right. So just a reminder, tell your friends, all of you in Deanie's class, be sure to tell your friends. If you want to learn more about UDL, this is, I think, a great platform for sharing resources. We we'll give you the Zoom link, but we would love you to register. It's free, of course. And also, you may be interested to joining our UDL network, which is for San Joaquin County, but we have other counties that participate in our network as well. So I definitely welcome you to encourage you to join that. We have a Connecting the Dots series. It isn't quite like Jennifer's website, but it is kind of another practical way of learning little chunks about UDL. We have a Padlet, and as you can see, the bit.ly is there. So I recommend you taking a look. The decision around these little mini modules was to provide teachers with little roughly 15-minute chunks of information about UDL that they could easily take in a concept and not 100 concepts about one thing, and then and help them kind of to start to build some of that knowledge that they need. So we have a Padlet free for you to use. There's tons of resources on here as well, but they all are around the foundational concepts of UDL, as well as we're making connections with UDL and equity, UDL and social emotional learning. Future modules will be centered around assessment and lesson design, English learners. There's a lot of them. I can keep going forever, I guess. So at least I think I can stay employed. This is just a view of our Facebook. And this was a live broadcast I did from Williams Middle School last month with the principal, Miguel Romo, where we are co-teaching in the middle school with UDL as the method or the practice that we're training teachers there to use. And last but not least, I have a live binder, which a lot of people have taken a look at. I presented it in a few conferences. The toolkit is pretty easy. The bit.ly there is a toolkit for UDL. Deanie knows about this, so maybe she can share some of those resources. Some of those, especially if you look where it says just added UDL flipbook from Open Access, they have a starring role. Yay, right? So when things are new, I try to bring them up front so people have a chance to look at those. But please take a look at it. We've hit over 52,000 views now, so people are looking at it. So it's really great. So that is what I wanted to share. We're a little bit over 5 o'clock, but wanted to be sure if there were any questions before we sign off. Deanie's asking. Anyone? So
No
something.
questions.
No questions right now? Okay, so the test will follow.
Yes, yeah, quiz.
We'll see how well they do. Okay.
Pop quiz.
Okay, well, listen, everybody, thank you for joining. The next call is whatever the third Wednesday of March is at 4:30. Please tell your friends. If you're teaching a class at night, Deanie, you can join us again. So no, you're not. Okay, but please tell your friends and any new teachers that want to know more about UDL, they're welcome to join us. Okay.
And Fred, you're going to add this video to the Facebook so that if we want to share it that way, we can share the video there.
Yes, I am. So I know at least the audio and everything will work here. So yes, I'm going to upload it to YouTube probably tonight. So and then I'll bring it into the Facebook feed. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we want to thank you, Jennifer, and
You're
thank
welcome.
you, Angel, for being here, as well as Deanie's class. And we look forward to being available to you. Of course, anytime you need anything around UDL, all you have to do is ask. So we're happy to support you. All right, everyone, you have a nice evening, and thanks again.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, everybody. Thanks, Jen.
Anytime.
Okay. The call is over. Goodbye.
You're still recording.
I know, I'm saying goodbye. I'll see you later.